Hey, what's going on there, folks? It is Earthmaster here, checking in on a Tuesday night, May 12th, 2020, about 8:17 p.m. here, West Coast time, and taking a look at the Earthquake Live 3D stream. Pretty quiet on the data stations over here on the bottom left-hand corner. All stations showing relatively background levels, with no signs of any type of earthquakes on any of these stations at the moment. Earlier today there was a pretty good size 6.6 earthquake way out here in the Pacific Ocean, way out there, right around the Solomon Islands region. That kind of triggered a bunch of P waves that traveled throughout the earth there. This earthquake struck pretty deep at about 112 kilometers below the surface there. So no potential for any type of tsunami, which is a good thing. And of course that's kind of a smaller magnitude to even create a tsunami. But those seismograph stations there were definitely picking up the P waves as they traveled throughout the earth there. So definitely a sizable quake, but luckily not a huge one, because this area right here where this earthquake struck could definitely produce some major ones. Let me tell you, it's a pretty big hot spot for activity there. Looking on the globe here, I don't think I need to point out, and this here is pretty much about the last 24 hours of earthquake activity. Hawaii out there in the Pacific showing a pretty good swarm of activity, and magnitudes appear to be on the increasing side as well. We're going to go ahead and cover that activity first. This is hold on one second here. I'm going to bring in the map from the, well, that didn't work out. That's kind of not how I want it, but it'll work. From the USGS Volcanic Hazards Program. Let me see if I can get that not so transparent there. There we go. Okay. And we're going to zoom in here on the Pacific Ocean out here in Hawaii, where a lot of this activity is taking place here. It's kind of interesting. It's been a swarm of activity out here on the Big Island, just south on the Big Island, and also just off the coast of the Big Island right there. You can see most of the volcanoes here in the green category, meaning normal background levels with no increased volcanic activity. There is one volcano there that is in the yellow, Mauna Loa, which is in color code yellow, which is kind of like it's increasing, right? It's kind of the aviation code is also yellow in that as well. It's just kind of like an advisory, nothing major, but showing some signs of some activity. But that's not the one that we are concerned about. The one that's kind of sparking some major interest, that's having all this earthquake activity, is this one out here in the Pacific. Let's see if we can back up a little bit so I can still get my markings here. I'm not for sure where Hawaii went to. Oh, there we go. This volcano out here, it's an undersea volcano, if you will, down there on the seabed. And if I can pronounce this thing correctly, Lōʻihi, I believe. Lōʻihi Seamount. Is that correct? If it's not, please correct me. I have no problem with someone correcting me. Lōʻihi Seamount out there is producing quite a bit of earthquake activity down there, and a little bit of background information on it will be coming up here shortly. Right now this is they got it down here as an unmonitored volcano, right? Unmonitored, which is kind of strange, because this thing here can create some explosive results there with an underwater explosion. But the USGS lists this as an unmonitored volcano. Let's go over here and check out a little bit of background information on that specific volcano. Real quick here, see if I can find that. Okay, this is going to be it right here, but it's still kind of strange and odd right here. It's just been one of those days. It's been a pretty crazy day, let me tell you. Seems like that always happens with me. But anyway, Lōʻihi Seamount right here. This is information from the USGS here. The Seamount is an active volcano built on the seafloor south of the Kilauea volcano, about 30 kilometers, 19 miles from the shore. The seamount rises to 3,179 feet below sea level and generates frequent earthquake swarms, kind of like what we're seeing right here. We'll get to that number of earthquakes here in just a minute. The most intense of which occurred between July and August back in 1996, with more than 4,000 recorded events. An eruption of Lōihi has yet to be observed, but research indicates that eruptions are both explosive and effusive. Lōʻihi's volume is, you can see it right there, 17,000 kilometers, and some other mathematical stuff there. And it is considered to be between preshield and shield stage. The summit is marked by a caldera-like depression. Looks like about 1.7 miles wide and 2.3 miles long. 3 collapse pits of craters occupy the southern part of the caldera. The most recent pit formed back in 1996 during the earthquake swarm. Let's see here. It is not known when Lōihi will breach sea level. We can speculate with a growth of about 16 feet per 1,000 years. It could take roughly about 200,000 years or so before we see it peak the ocean surface. It all depends on the eruption rate. But anyway, this is where kind of all the activity is occurring at the moment, folks, with quite a bit of earthquake activity in the vicinity. I'm going to go over here and point that out a little bit on the USGS map. Well, that's kind of out there on the west coast, which we will cover here in a tad bit. But I do want to take it back over here across the Pacific into the beautiful area out here in the Pacific. Some beautiful sights in Hawaii, no doubt. I still have yet to be there. I've never actually been to Hawaii. I'm just kind of scared of flying over water. Not a big fan of ocean flights, that's for sure. I'd rather just crash into the ground. Here's a one-day, all magnitudes, and you can see the swarming that I was talking about here of earthquakes. All these are earthquakes here, these orange dots, and they're not little microquakes either, and they're not really at the surface. They're pretty far down there, right around 20 kilometers or so, 30 kilometers, and let's see, 36 kilometers. They vary in different depths, if you will. And it's this activity right here, this area off the shore is kind of new compared to the earthquake swarming that we've been seeing there inland, if you will. We'll go ahead and zoom inland and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. All this activity has kind of started first on the land. Let's go back 7 days and we can see the activity a little bit here. Some older earthquake activity right in the yellow, and this is just the 7 days magnitude 2.5 and above. Let's see here, and that's kind of about when it started, right? Seems like about a week ago or so. Kind of started with some activity on land, and then it pretty much multiplied over here into one specific spot. You can see the caldera right there. That's the red circle. The Lōʻihi Seamount North Rift Zone. That's kind of the caldera region. So it's kind of outside of it, south and east, it looks like, mainly to the east, I guess, of activity. And there's a flurry of earthquakes there. Once again, this is just the 7 days, 2.5 and above, and I'm sure there's much more. Let's see if I can do all magnitudes here without wiping out my computer. And yeah, there we go. So we brought up the total just a tad bit here, up to 100, and let's zoom in so we get rid of those other ones here. About 92 earthquakes there, right around the Lōʻihi Seamount region, the undersea volcano. And it's check out these depths over here, folks, to the left side. They vary, and this is what's concerning, because we could be seeing an intrusion of magma progressing slowly to the surface, or it could be quickly. With these magnitudes here, we're seeing quite a few 3s, quite a few 2s, excuse me, got hiccups, and then quite a few 1s there as well. Just it's really concerning. We'll have to keep an eye on that here, but it's not uncommon to see earthquake swarms. You know, they mention on the USGS website that it's frequent. The last big one occurring back in 1996 here with 4,000 events. We're way far away from 4,000 earthquakes here on this map, but it's a start, and it's something to pay attention to here. As we zoom up here towards the north side and the south shore of the big island, you can see a large amount of earthquakes there as well, just over the last 7 days there. And this is kind of what I was pointing at here, where it all began. 137 earthquakes in this specific area of Hawaii, which is it's about 15 miles away, 17 miles away or so from the Lōihi volcano, the undersea volcano. So somewhat, you know, I guess it all could be connected in a way, if you will. 17 miles on on a scale like the Earth is very it's very small. May seem a lot for someone traveling on foot or even a car, but when it comes to geographical locations here, geological locations, this here is very small. Hold on one second here. Kind of froze up here. And the amount that these earthquakes right here are spread out are, what do we got here? About 10 miles or so spread out activity. And not in any one specific spot here. Unlike down there towards the south there. Even though that's kind of spread out a little bit. But as I mentioned, it's 10, 17 miles or so is not that big of a deal. Latest earthquake in this area looks to be a 2.4, and magnitudes, as I've mentioned, have been increasing in the area. There's a couple 3s in there, lots of 2s. Just a jumbled up mess of different depth earthquakes here, and it's kind of how this started out with the Kilauea volcano. We've seen a swarm of earthquakes at varying depths, and then we had that big earthquake there in Hawaii. What was it? I can't remember. Was it 7.1? I think. And then we had all the the fissures opening up and the lava coming up, and just it was a pretty awesome sight to see and witness. Watching the videos and stuff, but not for the folks living out there. But that's what happens when you're living on a volcano that's active, and an island that's active, I should say. That's always creating new land. But it's something to watch here, folks. I believe these two are in coordination with one another and directly related. How related, I'm not for sure. We'll have to keep an eye on it, because these are bouncing back and forth. There'll be earthquake activity up here on the island, and then there'll be earthquake activity down there in the Lōihi volcano area out here in the Pacific. In this specific area, hold on one second here. Let's go back to 1 day 2.5 and above. Let's get rid of a few of those. We can bring up the satellite view and check out the overview out here. Any specific domes out here that I'm seeing, or that I see here from satellite, I don't. Plus, a lot of these earthquakes out here are way down there, 35 kilometers or so below the surface. No surface type quaking out here. And of course, I don't think we're going to see anything on satellite way out here. Kilauea volcano sits up here. Is it to the north somewhere? Let's see, is that it? Not 100% sure. Hold on. There's so many volcanoes out there. It's just kind of a big coverage that I did back in 2018 on this activity out in Hawaii when the Kilauea volcano, there it is right there, you know, started to do its thing. It's pretty crazy. But this activity is a ways away, and we're not really seeing anything up here around the Kilauea crater at all. Just kind of in some weird spots out here, and then also down there in Lōʻihi rift area. So I think what I'm gonna do here after I said that earlier, I need to get this set up, is to bring a data station from that area and put it up on the live 3D stream so we can monitor that region, because I think it's building up out there, folks. Something's brewing big time below the surface. How bad it's going to be, I don't know, but it's something to monitor for sure out there in that state, or out there in the Pacific. Let's go ahead and go down here to Southern Cal. Check out the one-day all magnitudes here. We can see a progression of earthquakes pretty much on the San Jacinto fault system out here. We did have some newer earthquake activity, a 3-pointer down there south of the San Jacinto fault area, out here in this little area with no fault systems within view. A 3.3 earthquake struck Ocotillo region in Southern California. The nearest fault systems here are a couple unnamed fault systems. Looks like a Coyote area. This here is the Ellisnor, is that right? Fault system down here, which is another major plate boundary out here in Southern California. This southern section here is not really capable of producing any major quakes, but there's definitely some history about it, which I won't go into right now. But it's still it's definitely a good-sized fault out here. I think up here towards the north and northwest over here, we can see a bigger earthquake take place, but I'm not 100% sure in this specific area next to the mountains there. But oh man, I don't know if you guys can hear my neighbor's dogs, but they just bark. They got 4 or 5 of those little Chihuahua type dogs, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm not a big fan of those dogs. All they do is just bark at a bag, a leaf blowing, the moon. Oh my gosh, man. Come on, guys. They got like 5 of them. Give me a break. And they bark all day and all night. Anyway, so as we head up to the north here, above the Ocotillo 3.3 earthquake earlier in the day today, you can see some micro quaking in and around up here near the San Jacinto fault area. Also further north as well, along the northern part, the Clark Fault section. The same fault though, San Jacinto fault area. They had a couple of 3s up there. A lot of microquaking going on, but to take a look at the bigger picture here, we have to bring it back. We can go back 7 days, 2.5 and above, and I meant all magnitudes here. Sorry. And you can see the amount of movement that's taken place here throughout Southern California. A lot of earthquake activity still up in the Ridgecrest area. That's expected following those big events back last year in July. That's probably going to happen for another year or so. Who knows? But you can see the current activity in the orange circles here, indicating a lot of activity from down south here, just north of the border, all the way up to the San Jacinto fault area. This area right here, I'm really surprised we haven't seen a little bit larger release and pressure here. It's just there's so much activity to the south on that fault system there, and also kind of to the north as well. It almost seems like this whole fault area is kind of on the move right now, which is obviously going to apply pressure on various other fault systems. Out here in the Salton Sea region, there was that little earthquake swarm, and I believe that, let's go back here 1 second here. We're on the 7-day. Let's go back 1 day, all magnitudes here, and we'll drop those off there because those are older quakes there. But there was definitely a swarm out there in the Salton Sea region, which is right at the southern end of the San Andreas Fault section there, which is something to keep an eye on, that's for sure. But I'm really surprised something hasn't really popped off down here, and it still might. You know, it may happen tonight, it may happen tomorrow. There's just a lot of pressure and movement out there along that fault system for something not to happen here pretty soon. Of course, ridge crests, we covered that. Earthquake activity up here north of the Mammoth Lakes region. Still seeing some microquakes. Nothing abnormal. Take a look at the bigger picture here. Of course, Idaho still rocking and rolling up there in the earthquake state, right? Idaho, earthquake state. Forget potatoes. We got earthquakes up there. I mean, that's just one day, all magnitudes there. Quite a few 2s and a couple 3s in there. You can go ahead and, just for fun, go back last 30 days, 2.5 and above, and take a look at this number of earthquakes, folks. This here is in Idaho. 208 earthquakes there in the beautiful earthquake state of Idaho. Kind of gives you a shape of the rupture out there, right? This was getting pretty close, and if not on the Sawtooth fault system out here. That's this area right here. That area right there, capable of producing a pretty good sized quake, a lot bigger than the ones they seen earlier last month. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see the shape of that, kind of see where all that pressure is kind of releasing. But I don't think they're done. I do not think they're done with earthquake activity up there. Yellowstone National Park here, real quick. Let's cover that. Ooh, what do we got there? Okay, it wants to be a little transparent right there, but that's okay. This here is the latest updated map, the overview, if you will, of the region. And it's looking pretty... I don't know why he's doing that. Oh, I think I know. I think I know. Resolution, man. It's all about the resolution. If you have a wrong resolution in the OBS system, we're looking at unfortunate situations like that. There we go. Now we can see a little bit better view, and plus we can zoom in a little bit more. But activity up there, folks, had pretty much died down. There was a small, if you will, an aftershock, not aftershock, but a swarming of activity up there in the northwest corner of the park, kind of near Madison River, Maple Creek. The dark blue colored lines that you're seeing on some of these graphs here are wind events. As you've seen, they've shown up pretty much all throughout most of the stations, some of them. So they're just weather events up there. No magma movement, no rupturing of any type of magma chamber. You know, it's Yellowstone, right? It's a beautiful area. The earthquake swarm has died down. It didn't last very long, but the weather up there looks like the wind likes to blow up there. That's for sure. So let's see what else we got. I don't want to make it too long out here, folks. 2.6 out there in Oklahoma. And there's a Southern California earthquake activity. 6.6 was mentioned. There's a 4.6 deep earthquake out here south of the Fiji Islands region. Once we see deep earthquakes out there, folks, we tend to see a lot more surface quakes out here. And most of it should be over here towards the north and the west region for adjustment following that deep earthquake there in Fiji. That one struck pretty deep there at 493 kilometers below the surface. Right now, surface quaking is in the 4s up there around Japan and north of there, along that section of the Pacific Ring of Fire. But I expect things to be picking up probably tonight and into tomorrow. But main story, kind of watching that activity out there in Hawaii. As soon as I'm done with this update video, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can find a localized station out there in Hawaii so we can watch and monitor earthquake activity in that region. So I gotta go, folks. My throat's getting dry. Need something to drink. Anyway, have a good night. Hope everyone stays safe out there, and yeah, we'll talk to you guys a little bit later. Peace.